kitchen was modern and bright. The backyard was large enough for the children to play soccer. My room was on the first floor, with a window overlooking a small garden. Jessica hugged me when I arrived. "We're so happy you're here," she said. For a while, everything seemed perfect. I helped the children with homework. I cooked family dinners. I folded laundry and watered plants. I tried my best not to be a burden. Whenever I thanked Jessica for letting me stay, she smiled. "We're family," she would say. And I believed her. But slowly, little things began to change. Jessica's smiles became less frequent. Her voice became colder. Sometimes when I entered a room, conversations would suddenly stop. At first, I told myself I was imagining it. I didn't want to create problems. I didn't want to be the difficult mother-in-law. One evening, about 6 months after I moved in, I was walking down the hallway when I heard voices coming from the kitchen. Jessica was speaking to Ethan. I wasn't trying to listen, but then I heard my name. I froze. Jessica sighed heavily. "Honestly, Ethan," she said, "how much longer is she going to stay here?" My heart stopped. I stood there in silence, staring at the floor, as the first crack appeared in the life I thought we had built together. I stood frozen in the hallway, my heart pounding so loudly that I could barely hear anything else. How much longer is she going to stay here? Jessica's words echoed in my mind. For a moment, I wondered if I had misunderstood her. Maybe she was talking about someone else. Maybe there was an explanation. Then I heard Ethan's voice. "Jessica, she's my mother." His response gave me a small sense of relief, but it disappeared almost immediately. "I know that," Jessica replied. "I'm just saying this wasn't supposed to be permanent." There was a long silence. I quietly returned to my room before they could see me. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying the conversation over and over. Every smile Jessica had given me suddenly felt different. Every kind word now seemed rehearsed. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen and greeted everyone as usual. Jessica smiled. "Good morning, Margaret." It was the same smile she always wore. But now I could see something behind it. Something cold, something false. From that day forward, the atmosphere in the house slowly changed. At first, the changes were small. Jessica stopped inviting me to family outings. One Saturday morning, I saw everyone getting ready to leave. The children were excited. Ethan was carrying a cooler. Jessica was gathering snacks. "Where are you all going?" I asked. Jessica looked surprised. "Oh, we're just spending the day at Cedar Point." The amusement park was nearly 2 hours away. They had clearly planned it for days. Nobody had mentioned it to me. "Oh," I said quietly. "Maybe next time," Jessica replied, before walking out the door. The house felt painfully empty that day. I sat alone in the living room, listening to the clock tick. For the first time, I felt like a guest instead of family. As the weeks passed, things became worse. Jessica began criticizing almost everything I did. If I loaded the dishwasher, she rearranged it. If I folded towels, she unfolded them and did them again. If I cooked dinner, she found something wrong with the meal. The chicken is too dry. The vegetables are overcooked. The soup needs more seasoning. Nothing I did was ever good enough. At first, I apologized. Then I simply stayed quiet. One afternoon, I was helping my granddaughter Emma with her school project. We were laughing while making a model of the solar system. Jessica walked into the room and frowned. "Emma, don't you have piano practice?" Emma looked disappointed. "We're almost done." I said piano practice. The little girl slowly stood up and left. The moment she was gone, Jessica turned toward me. "You don't need to interfere with everything." I stared at her. "I was only helping." "I know what you were doing." Her tone was sharp. The accusation hurt more than I wanted to admit. Helping my grandchildren had become one of the few things that brought me joy. Now even that seemed unwelcome. The children began spending less time with me. Not because they wanted to, because Jessica always found a reason to keep them busy. I noticed it. They noticed it. But nobody said anything. Not even Ethan. That hurt the most. My son saw the tension growing inside the house, yet he never asked questions. Whenever Jessica complained, he simply nodded. Whenever I tried to explain myself, he changed the subject. It was easier for him to avoid conflict than face the truth. One rainy afternoon, I decided to bake chocolate chip cookies. The recipe had belonged to my mother. Ethan loved those cookies when he was a child. Whenever he had a bad day, I would make a fresh batch. The smell filled the kitchen. For a few minutes, I felt happy again. I placed the cookies on a cooling rack and went upstairs to grab a container. When I returned, the tray was gone. Confused, I looked around the kitchen. Then I noticed the garbage can. My heart sank. The cookies were inside. Every single one, thrown away. Jessica was wiping the counter. "What happened?" I asked softly. She didn't even look embarrassed. "We don't need all that sugar in the house." I stared at the trash. "The children love these cookies." Jessica shrugged. "Nobody wants them." The words felt like a knife. Nobody wants them. I wasn't sure if she was talking about the cookies anymore. That night, I sat alone in my room and cried quietly into my pillow. I had never felt so unwanted, not even after Robert died. At least then I knew I had been loved. Now I wasn't so sure. A few weeks later, I accidentally overheard another conversation. This time, Jessica was speaking on the phone. I was passing the kitchen when her words stopped me cold. She laughed softly before saying, "Honestly, once she's gone, this whole house will finally belong to us." My blood ran cold. Gone? What exactly did she mean? Standing there in silence, I suddenly realized something terrifying. Jessica didn't just dislike me. She wanted me out of her life completely. And deep down, I feared that my son might be letting it happen. After hearing Jessica say, "Once she's gone, this whole house will finally belong to us," I couldn't stop thinking about it.